Hey, what's up, YouTube fam? I'm back with another quick one. I'll try not to make this an hour-long documentary, but what I want to talk today about is DFAS and your MyPay and how that all works. And so what I'm going to do is go through MyPay real quick. So there's a couple things to know when you're getting ready to transition out. If you're retiring, you will have 2 accounts set up. And that's going to be a little bit strange, but don't worry, don't panic. If you're coming off active duty and you're retiring, just a few things to note real quick is, one, make sure you set up this user ID and login so you can log in without your CAC, because once your CAC is turned in, then you won't be able to use it anymore, of course. So you want to make sure that you set this up and that you test it out a couple times and actually probably start using it before you give up your ID card so that you can get used to using it. And then the second piece would be to make sure you set up 2FA. If you don't know what that is, two-factor authentication, that's basically this thing right here that says secure sign-on. And what it does is it allows you to have a revolving PIN on your phone through an app like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator if you're using that for anything. Same kind of thing that you do with banks and other secure websites. It's just an added layer of protection for you to be able to not get hacked. So the PIN rotates every 60 seconds or so, and the PINs are only able to be used one time, and it works on like this algorithm that knows how to match up the PINs. If you ever used an RSA key or anything like that, it's a similar kind of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And as you can see, it's asking me for my Authenticator app. I'll go next. I'll just open up my Auth app real quick on my phone and grab the PIN, hopefully, and then punch it in here. As you can see, and I'm not worried about it because, again, they revolve, so it doesn't really matter. You have to click submit, you can't hit enter. And then you'll get the user agreement, of course. So one thing I want to make sure I point out here is the 2 different accounts, right? Separated active duty and Army retiree. So separated active duty is their way of tracking the past transactions, I guess, or the past history and keeping a record of it. And then the Army retired account is the one that'll show your retirement statements. So the thing that I didn't realize and I didn't understand, and I asked a few questions about it, and it took a minute for me to figure it out, was basically the leaving earnings statement that you get, or your retirement compensation statement that you get, will not actually start showing up till about 90 days after you separate. So the first 30 days, they're going to actually freeze your earnings. To make sure that you don't have any like outstanding debts that you have to pay or anything that's that they require you to pay up before they start paying you retirement pay. And on that note, if you haven't already, this is just like a little side note, but if you haven't already, I would highly recommend. This is something I discovered about 10 years ago. And it was basically the continuing resolution that we do every year for, a certain amount of time. And a lot of times they'll freeze military payments, and they'll do all the furlough stuff and all that stuff in the government that happens every year, pretty much every year. So one thing I realized when that happened 10 years ago was that I had a decent chunk of money set aside in an allotment that was going to one bank account, and then the rest of it was just coming to my main bank account. And during the continuing resolution, I guess it was that year, it should have been that year, when they actually froze paying military members for like a month. And I realized that they didn't touch the allotments at all, right? So the allotments went through, and then whatever else was left over was what got chopped, basically. And so from that point forward, I'd started to make about 90% of my paycheck go into an allotment, whether it was to one bank account, 2 bank accounts, whatever. That way, if continuing resolution came around again, they decide to freeze accounts again, then the majority of my money would be safe, and I wouldn't have to worry about it so much because the allotments are going to go through no matter what usually. So that's just a pro tip. If you're still active now and you still have maybe a year or two left and you want to make sure you avoid the continuing resolution nonsense, then that might be something smart to do. And it actually is, I discovered it by chance. So that's just a helpful tip. So as I was saying, the first 30 days, they'll freeze your retirement payment and check to see if you have any outstanding debts or any loan payments or anything like that you have to deal with. And then they'll unlock it the following month. So about 30 days past your separation date, then it'll unlock and you'll start getting your retirement payments. What you won't get is an LES for your retirements. So for 90 days, basically you won't get an LES. And I think for me it was like 120 days actually, because that first 30 days doesn't really count. So after about 90 days, then your retirement LES should start showing up in your account. And again, you just have to go in here and select Army, military, retiree, or Navy, or whatever branch you happen to be. And that'll switch it over, and then you'll get your monthly Retiree Account Statement, the ERAS. Sorry, I've been calling it LES because that's just a habit. But and then you'll get all this other stuff for retirement. So don't panic. It's normal. You can actually call DFAST and ask them if you get past that 90-day window and you still don't see anything, then by all means give them a ring. That's what I did. I just called them up and they're like, yeah, it's no problem. It'll show up on the 1st of April or whenever it was, 1st of March. So that's that. You still have access to allotments and stuff like that. Like I said, for me, it makes more sense to just make it all into an allotment, and that way they can't really mess with the money if it's in an allotment, or at least that seems to be the case in my experience. I'm just an experiment of one person, so I've told many people about it, but I haven't really gotten any feedback on if that was the case for them as well. But that was certainly the case for me. And yeah, then everything else is set. Another thing to make sure that you do is check your mailing address in here. So whatever your mailing address is set to, that's where they'll start sending all the correspondence back and forth to you. If you need to have anything sent to you in paper form, like a W-2 or anything like that, make sure that's set. You may or may not have set it at some point and then forgot about it, or you're ETSing, getting out off of active duty, and you move somewhere else and you still got it set to your old address. You want to just make sure to change that so that you get your physical mail statements. And other than that, that's about it. Feel free to drop any comments below and let me know if there's anything else or anything that you've come across or anything that you might recommend, and we can dig deeper into it. But other than that, have a great week, and I will talk to you very soon.